The Trump administration is now preparing to accept a super luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from the royal family of Qatar. It is a $400 million gift available for use by President Trump as new Air Force One until shortly before he leaves office, at which time, according to the deal, the plane doesn't stay with the United States government. It then moves to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. Take back to the original question. Is this good for President Trump? Is it good for his agenda? Is it good for draining the swamp and getting things done? The answer is no, it isn't.
What's up, people? It's your boy Toby, and you are welcome to the Toby Show. If you're not subscribed to this channel, do that right now. Subscribe to this channel, watch these videos, leave a like, leave a comment, and share these videos with your friends. So, Israel loyalist Ben Shapiro has come on the internet in the last 48 hours criticizing Trump and his administration for collecting a private jet from the Qataris. According to him, that's not Make America Great Again. That's not MAGA. Even though he doesn't have a problem when the adolescents from Israel or AIPAC are financing elections and allegedly bribing politicians. He doesn't have a problem with that. But then now he's foaming in the mouth, criticizing Trump, saying that Qatar funds terrorism and they funded Hamas, all sorts of things. And it's so weird to see because clearly everyone can see that Trump is trying to end this war. But because he's not doing it on Benjamin Netanyahu's term or on Israel's term, for the first time in a long time, it is not good enough for Ben Shapiro. Let's see what he has to say and we can react.
Clearly, what Hamas is attempting to do is basically settle all outstanding business with the United States so as to then create separation between the United States and Israel in Iran negotiations. That is what is happening with the Houthis as well. It is not a coincidence that as the Houthis are basically forswearing attacks on American shipping, and the United States is saying that the United States is no longer going to worry about the Houthis, essentially. That Hamas is now trying to do the same by releasing the sole living American hostage in the Gaza Strip, trying to basically say that the United States now has no part in that conflict. Well, okay, fine. I mean, if the United States has no part in that conflict, then Israel should just go and do what they need to do. That seems to me a proper solution with regard to the Gaza Strip. Now, the ugliest part, and there is an ugly...
What does it mean that Israel just goes in and do what they need to do? Basically, Israel goes in and kill everyone in there. That's what he's saying. And these are the people that come out to criticize people like us and other people that say there should be ceasefire. Release all the hostages on both sides. Everybody go home. Everybody build their homes, build their base or wherever. And there should be a two-state solution. Clearly, Ben Shapiro doesn't want that.
Ugly parts of this is that there are widespread rumors and now news reports that Edan Alexander is going to be flown to Qatar to meet with the Emir of Qatar. This is vile. That's vile. He should, of course, meet with President Trump. He can do so in America. He can do so in Israel. There are plenty of places that Edan Alexander and his family can express their gratitude to President Trump, as well they should. Going to Qatar to meet the Emir of Qatar. Qatar is a terror sponsor country. Qatar is the number one funder of Hamas. It is disgusting to have a hostage who was taken by a group funded by Qatar go to Qatar to thank the Emir of Qatar for his freedom.
If Qatar is so evil, like he claims, right? Why does America have their base in Qatar? Literally. The biggest base in the Middle East is in Qatar. You go, I mean, Qatar is helping facilitate the ceasefire, the negotiations. You go, I mean, I've seen people like Tucker Carlson say that Qatar is more of an ally than any other country in the Middle East. So when I hear people like Ben Shapiro call them all these names and everything, I'm thinking, you're not being truthful. You're not being honest. You just care about Israel. Qatar helped, facilitate the freedom of this young man. So if Trump says, hey, come to Qatar and show your appreciation to the people that helped facilitate your freedom, there's nothing wrong with it. But people like Ben always want war, unfortunately.
That's an absurdity on its face if it were to happen. It is wrong. It should not be facilitated by the United States. Qatar is the sponsor state of Hamas. In fact, if the Trump administration seriously wanted all hostages out of Gaza, they could do so tomorrow simply by telling the Emir of Qatar that the airbase in Qatar is going away and that it'll move to the UAE, which the United States could do. That should have been the approach of the Biden administration on October 8th. They should have said all the hostages come out or the airbase goes away. That's how closely tied together Qatar and Hamas are. Well, Edan Alexander is now 21. Hamas captured him when he was 19 on October 7th, 2023, of course. Now, all of this has some wider ramifications with regard to negotiations in the Middle East. Again, Steve Witkoff continues to say ridiculous things publicly. So Steve Witkoff, who again, I do not think is a good negotiator. I do not think that Steve Witkoff has demonstrated his bona fides along any lines. So far, all of the hostage deals have essentially been kind of mediocre in the sense that maximum pressure has not been exerted on the bad guys.
Steve Witkoff, as we all know, he helped facilitate the ceasefire that actually got 20 Israelis released from Hamas captivity. He did that. He was the one that implemented the first stage of the ceasefire. He wanted to implement the second stage before Israel started the bombardment again. So for Ben Shapiro to come out and disrespect this man and say that this man doesn't know what he's doing, that should tell you that all Ben cares about is Israel, whatever is good for Israel, regardless if it's bad for America and for Trump. So in Ben's mind, erase all your relations with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar, destroy all that, because Israel is not involved, because Israel is not on top. That's horrible.
Yesterday, Witkoff said, we want to bring the hostages home, but Israel is not willing to end the war. Israel is prolonging it despite the fact that we don't see where else we can go and that an agreement must be reached. There's currently an opportunity window we hope Israel and all the mediators will take advantage of. We're putting pressure on all the mediators and doing everything we can to bring the hostages home. It is not Israel's unwillingness to end the war that is leading to hostages being taken. That's like blaming the police for the kidnappers not releasing the hostages. No, actually, that's up to the kidnappers. Hamas could end the war today. They could have ended the war October 6th. It never had to happen in the first place. Meanwhile, all of this is part and parcel of broader negotiations happening over the Iranian nuclear program. According to the Wall Street Journal, the United States said it was encouraged by talks with Iran on Sunday after a meeting, but the two sides remain divided on key questions, including whether Tehran will be allowed to enrich its own uranium. Well, I mean, that is the key question. That is not one key question. That is the key question. The United States should have no interest in a deal with Iran where Iran continues to develop nuclear missiles. That is ridiculous. Anything that allows them the capacity to continue to develop nuclear materials, which can then be tied to their ballistic missile program, is insane. The United States should not be party to that. That is the JCPOA. That is the thing that Donald Trump labeled the worst deal in history. The United States should not be conceding points to the Iranian government. Again, Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met for 3 hours in the Omani capital of Muscat in their fourth round of negotiations since April 12th. After the meeting, the U.S. cast the latest talks, mediated by Omani officials, as positive and said the diplomacy would continue in the near future. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said talks were difficult but useful in better understanding the U.S. position. Now, again, Iran has another goal in these talks. If they can't get a bad deal from the Trump administration, and again, I have faith that President Trump is not going to cut JCPOA Part 2. It would be a rejection of his own legacy. If Iran has another goal, it is delay. And a delay for Iran is as good.
For people that don't know what JCPOA is, this was the deal that Obama made with Iran. You know, telling them that, all right, you can build your nuclear materials and all that, but you cannot go past a certain level, because once you go past a certain level, that's how you build a nuclear bomb. You go what I mean? But then when Trump came in, he walked away from that deal. Now, Trump is trying to make another deal with Iran.
As a deal. In October, the JCPOA period ends. At that point, they can simply rush to a bomb. Now, they could just rush to a bomb right now as well. They could simply violate whatever is left of the JCPOA, and they could rush to a bomb. Herein lies the problem. Right now, there's a window of opportunity for anyone who wishes to end the Iranian nuclear program. That window of opportunity exists because Israel eviscerated a few months back Iran's entire air defense program. So the skies over Iran are totally clear right now. Not only that, but Iran still has not developed retaliatory capacity that would deter action by, say, Israel. If Iran is capable of standing the Israelis down by negotiating with the United States for prolonged periods of time, that is their win. Simply the negotiations being dragged out over a lengthy period of time is something the Iranians are going for pretty clearly. The two sides are still very far apart on the question of whether Iran gets to retain its nuclear enrichment program. Witkoff has sent mixed messages himself because, again, he has no expertise in any of these issues. He set out what he called clear U.S. red lines, that Iran can't have an enrichment program under a deal, nor should it have any centrifuges, which enrich uranium. And then Iran came back and said they would never accept any such terms. President Masoud Pezeshkian, who, again, is a stand-in for the mullahs, said Iran has never sought and will never seek nuclear weapons, but it will not back down from its peaceful nuclear rights. After Sunday's talk, Araki said Iran was open to adjusting the amount of enrichment it does and the purity of the material being produced for a limited period as a confidence-building measure. But he said there is no room for discussion about Iran's continued domestic enrichment. So what exactly is Iran giving away that makes Steve Witkoff and company optimistic in any way? Again, this is just so Iran can delay. And if President Trump doesn't want to bomb Iran, which again he has set out as sort of binary, there's a third option here, by the way, which is that the United States maintains maximum pressure on Iran, and then Israel goes and attacks the Iranian nuclear facilities. I think that is actually the most likely outcome here.
This guy is so crazy, bro. Look at his face, right? He is literally pleading for war. So why should America maintain maximum pressure on Iran for Israel to go in and bomb them? Why couldn't he say, all right, America, stay out of the way, don't get involved, let Israel go and bomb Iran, and then let the situation be between Iran and Israel? Why must you involve America into it? But that's to tell you that these guys know. It's like a little brother who always want to pick a fight, knowing that the big brother was going to come to his defense, right? And that's the problem with people like Ben Shapiro. They always want war, knowing that regardless of what happened, America is going to step in. You get what I'm saying? It's easy to say, okay, America, step out of the way. Let's go into Gaza and do what we need to do. Because he knows that Hamas is powerless. Hamas cannot really stand Israel. Israel can just go in there and just clear it all out. But he knows the power of Iran. So he wants to get America involved. And Trump has been saying that he doesn't want to get involved in any war. He doesn't want any war. So you do the calculations. Out of America and Israel, what country is always pleading for war? Is Israel. Because they know that America and the allies will always step in and help them out.
Here, if I'm just gaming out the possibilities for the next several months. With all of that said, all of this ties into broader Middle Eastern negotiations that are happening over everything from the Abraham Accords to the release of hostages to the future of the Gaza Strip to what's happening in Iran. Now, all of this crosses paths, obviously, with President Trump's visit to the Middle East this week. The biggest story in terms of the media coming out this week is a story reported by ABC News, among others, that the Trump administration is now preparing to accept a super luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from the royal family of Qatar. It is a $400 million gift available for use by President Trump as new Air Force One until shortly before he leaves office, at which time, according to the deal, the plane doesn't stay with the United States government. It then moves to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. According to ABC News, the gift had been expected to be announced when President Trump was on his visit to Qatar. A senior White House official said it's not going to happen in Qatar anymore, presumably thanks to social media blowback. President Trump put out a statement on Truth Social about the blowback saying, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats, they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers. MAGA. So, again, the arrangement itself is, shall we say, I believe the legal term is skeezy. Sources told ABC News that lawyers for the White House counsel's office and the Department of Justice drafted an analysis for the Defense Department, concluding it's legal for the DOD to accept the aircraft as a gift and then later turn it over to the Trump library, and that somehow does not violate laws against bribery or the Constitution's prohibition on emoluments. The Constitution literally says the U.S. government cannot accept official gifts from any king, prince, or foreign state. Apparently, Attorney General Pam Bondi and the top White House lawyer, David Warrington, concluded it would be legally permissible for the donation of the aircraft to be conditioned on transferring its ownership to Trump's presidential library before the end of his term. And apparently, Pam Bondi, who it should be mentioned at this point was once an actual FARA registered agent acting on behalf of the government of Qatar, provided a legal memorandum addressed to the White House counsel's office last week after Warrington asked her for advice on the legality of the Pentagon accepting such a donation.
So yes, as you can see, Ben Shapiro, he's clearly not happy with Trump, right? And his administration, he wants Trump to go to war for him and Israel against Iran. He wants Trump to stay away from the Qataris. He's clearly not happy that an Israeli citizen got released. So anything that does not benefit Israel, anything that does not make Israel come on top, he's not for it. I think that's wrong. And that's the reason why people call him Israel loyalist, an Israeli shill. Because as long as it benefits Israel, he's good. If it doesn't, regardless of if it benefits America, he will not be for it. He will always criticize it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right because the way things are going and everything, we need peace in the world. And Trump is saying that he wants peace. And I think that's making America great again. Let me know your thoughts. Put it in the comment section. Like these videos. Share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. It's your boy Toby. Salute.